We've talked about this before and covered it fairly thoroughly, but we want to kind of make sure that it's clear. It's this is what it is. It's about children and welfare parents, and the problem that we're dealing with is the welfare mothers that stereotype advertising stuff that you're given the woman that has 6 kids, so she has plenty of money and buys all kinds of things for herself to hell with the kids. And the man is kicked out of the house and so on and so forth. That's a stereotype picture that you see. And one of the problems that we're having with that, they who give us this information are having with this is that the critical uh, support system of this country is the children and the possibility of the inventions that they might. There are two things. See, one of the first thing is that the patents that we have lock inventions up. So if you're a big corporation and you see somebody trying to invent a electric car and they're doing well with it, you can lock up any electric car invention, any battery invention, any invention that might charge the battery. Do you see what I'm saying? They're going to stop the electric car. They do it by buying the patents. Now, one of the I'm going to say sneaky. I shouldn't say that. But one of the things that they said is that you cannot lock up a patent. In other words, the federal government can buy any patent in the world. And let's not say in the world. Let's say in this country, any patent in this country, they can buy for 400,000 a year. That's the maximum that you can possibly charge. So you have this big corporation that has bought up a patent for a car that goes 70 miles on a tank of gas or a gallon of gas, 70 miles on a tank of gas. Now I don't know if it's true. I don't have a clue, but let's just say there's a patent out there that will allow a car, a regular V8 car, to go 70 miles on a gallon of gas. And we want that. No, there's no question that we want that. Number one, the pollution is going to come down, and number two, the cost of driving is going to come way down. And of course, the oil companies, the gas companies, don't want that patent out, so they bought it, and they're holding it, and they're saying, no, you can't have it. No, we're going to keep the gas mileage of a truck down to 20 miles to the gallon. 20 instead of 90 or 80? Yes, that's exactly what they're doing. And so you think that, oh, well, so they open up the patents and they're viable. What difference does that make? See, it's the spider web. It's always the spider web, spider web, spider web. This thing connects to that thing, connects to that. Okay, so what are we talking about? We're talking about the federal government can buy any patent in this country for 400,000 a year because you can't make any more than that. You understand what we're saying? So you can't lock up a patent, and the federal government, billions and trillions of dollars, can buy that patent and say, okay, we bought that patent. Now understand how it's going to go. The federal government buys that patent. The corporation, the gas companies, the oil companies say, we don't want to sell it. And the federal government says it doesn't make any difference. We're gonna buy it, and 400,000 a year we're gonna give you. And they say that's pocket change. And the federal government says it's a law. You no longer have a right to that particular patent. We now have trucks that can go 80 miles to a gallon, and there's nothing you can do about it. Now, the next thing they do is they set up an auction. Okay, I'm a businessman, and I really want to get into another business, or maybe get into the first business, and my dad has money, and I'm going to go to the auction, and lo and behold, I end up buying being the top bidder in an auction. I can now produce that carburetor or that system so that it gets 80 miles to the gallon. And I go to work. All of a sudden I got a company. All of a sudden I got workers. I'm making this. You understand what I'm saying? All of a sudden somebody's making money. A bunch of workers are all of a sudden no longer working for the government. They're working for this company. What are they doing? They're making the system that gets 80 miles to the gallon on a truck, a V8. Okay, now you get that concept, and all of the patents that are locked up are opened. So one of the things that happens is that you look at the children of your country and you say, those children could invent something and nobody can lock it up. So they become a natural resource. They become what makes this country wealthy. The most important, uh, the single most important, by probably 1,000% more important than farmers and miners and manufacturers, is the child. Because we have no idea what they will invent, if they can invent it and it works and it goes. So here you are, all of a sudden realizing why it is that they're trying to get you to stop seeing that picture of that welfare mother and start looking at it in reality. The children, some of them don't have enough to eat. Some of actually here in the United States, there are children that do not have enough to eat. It's unbelievable. It's unbelievable. And where do you get the idea that everybody, if, I can't. There are children, not any ridiculous, something that is said by some person over in the corner that nobody has to pay any attention to, is saying that there are children out there that don't have enough to eat. If they don't have enough to eat, their brain doesn't develop. They're eating cornflakes, or nothing against cornflakes, but you understand what we're saying? They don't have enough to eat. They don't have enough protein. They don't have enough health. They can't go to the doctor because the mother can't afford it, and blah blah blah, and the overchargers who are buying $100 million pictures for the dining room, just to show how they can do it because they've stolen that much money from you. They're sitting there saying, oh no, that's not true. It's true. There are children that do not get enough food to develop the brain the way we're supposed to have the brain developed in children. So what did they do? They said, that's the focus. That's the focus. You have to focus on that. These children are our highest natural resource by 1,000%. What they can do. I mean, let's some child who was in the ghettos, some child who wasn't getting enough food, all of a sudden gets it, and he's only 1 year old, and his brain develops, and he's getting the food that he's supposed to have, and he's getting this and he's getting that, and all of a sudden he invents a package, a system of energy, and he patents it. And all of a sudden the oil and gas companies jump up and down and buy it. Okay, now the federal government comes along and says, I'm sorry, but we're going to buy that from you. And the oil and gas companies are screaming and hollering, you can't do it. And what the federal government says is, we can't, it's a law. And so what happens? What happens is, all of a sudden, now listen to me. You have an electric, in the not very distant future, you have a little box covered with shed, and in that shed there's a system of generating electricity. Generates all the electricity you need for your house. And everybody's thinking lights, so what? We're talking about heat. We're talking about air conditioning. We're talking about charging your car. Now, as that goes along, you have to understand something. If you accidentally drove your car and forgot to charge it, you can go to anybody's house, anybody, and ask them to charge, I'll pay you $20 to charge my car. Okay, no problem. Because everybody will have this little shed, if you will, that has the free energy. It's not free, but close. You had to pay to buy the thing, but now you have energy for the whole house, heat it, cool it, lights. If you're out in the country, you have pumps. You understand what we're saying? That was done by a child who wouldn't have done it if they did. So what are they saying? They're saying we got to change something. Okay, now you understand why, and you understand that this picture of the welfare mother is bullshit. Absolute bullshit. Does it happen? Sure. Every once in a while you'll see one. Yes, you'll see a bad mother. Yeah, you'll see a bad anybody, anything. But as a general rule, we can't afford to take the chance that the child that we're letting starve, not get well enough fed. Now, you understand they probably won't starve. That would look bad on the government's picture of things. But let's just say not getting well enough fed to have their brain work right so that they can invent this thing. All of a sudden they are have now how are we going to do this? We've told you over and over again how they're going to do it, but we're going to tell you one more time and get to the point where it's critical. Get to the point where this is a very, very important thing to the economy, to the well-being of this country. Okay, so what they say is the government will give the same benefit package as a worker gets to any parent who raises a child or children under contract as long as the parent takes classes or has passed classes required to raise a child. Now, they didn't say that you have to take the classes. We have to right to tell you how to raise your children. That's not what they said. They said you will get the benefit package if you are raising a child and you have taken the class or passed the class on how to raise a child. What did they, government's going to tell you how to raise a child? No. We're going to tell you, the government, your government is going to tell you these are the things that we know about raising a child. We know it has to have such and such amount of protein, has to have vitamins and minerals, has to have the things that it has to eat. And we've done the research to find out what's true, and we don't have this expert failure. What we're going to go into a lot of things here that they weren't intended. It's not even in here. I'm reading it, and it's not even in here. But look, we've had 77 years of watching the experts tell you. 77 years now I've had it. 77 years I've watched the experts, and they've been wrong over and over again. They tell you how to eat, they were wrong. They tell you what vitamins to take and how to take them, they were wrong. They tell you almost everything in your life, and they're wrong. So now we've got the federal government making they pay, as you remember, that they paid off the federal debt and they go into research and development. The federal government is now doing research and development, and it is your people that you voted for, the people that are doing what you want, not what the corporations want. And these people are doing the research, and they're finding out, you need to feed your children this type of thing. I'm not telling you that you have to. The classes aren't there to. What if they're wrong? Well, they won't be wrong probably because they're doing the proper research and development. But you're required to take these classes so that you know. It isn't classes so that you have to. It's just that you can choose to do whatever you want, as a parent. But you will know. You got the research and development by the government, and they're telling you this is what you need to feed your child to be the very best. And there isn't very many. The picture that you have is a sloppy mother that doesn't care. The reality is, there's almost no mother that wouldn't go with whatever was best for their child. I mean, come on. You show me a mother that doesn't look for the best for their child, and I'll show you a mother that's got an addiction, that's got, is sick. There's something wrong with them, and we're working on solving that problem. So you end up with less and less mothers that don't care, and you end up with less and less mothers that fit the picture of the slobby welfare mother. And all of a sudden you have mothers that care, and then you have children that are learning. And corporate, I'm going to go on reading because I could go on all day. Corporate work will no longer be the priority, and perhaps not even considered, but the inventing of new ways of doing things, or the new items for the benefit of society, would become the priority. What did they say? They said corporation work, the corporate cesspool, will no longer be a priority in education, in television picturing, in sitcoms, in the whole advertising bullshit. But the inventing of new ways to do things, or the new needed items for the benefit of our society, will be what we'll be talking about. The parent will take classes and pass tests so they have an understanding of how to allow the child to invent and learn. The schools would teach how to do all that also, along with where to find those things needed to accomplish their wants, how to gain what it is they want in our society, and of course the basic courses on things they need to have or know to live in our country. And in brackets they say that will change, of course, because we will be teaching them things they need to know rather than the corporate cesspool education. You gotta love them. Corporate cesspool education, that's what they've always talked about. And when you stop and think about how that works, you begin to realize that's what it was. They had a group of, educated classes to teach you how to work for the corporate pool. What is the corporate pool? The corporate pool is all those people that properly learn to kiss ass. All those people that learn to properly kiss ass are in this system so that they can have this degree that says that they can do it, and they're in this pool. And the corporations look in that pool and say, okay, we want to hire this person and this person and this person because they've been taught. Do you have a degree? No, I don't have a degree. Well, then we're not going to hire you. Why? Because you will not kiss my ass properly. No, it's a little gross to I use the words like bullshit and kiss ass and stuff like that. We're talking about in the real world. This isn't for the education of sixth graders. You should be an adult if you're listening to this. You're supposed to be an adult, which is hard to find. You can't find adults anymore, but you should become an adult. Okay, so what they're saying is the corporate cesspool no longer is being the system for educating. They're learning how to live, and we've already talked about that before. And we're also teaching them how to invent, which is something that absolutely is not taught in any university. They will learn to go on, then they will learn just what their abilities are and how far they can go with those abilities. Oh, and don't forget the fun that they'll have along the way compared to sitting in a prison for 13 long years learning how to kiss. Well, that's what they said. See, they're hesitant to say it too, but it's time that you learned what it is that's actually going on. And they go on and say that is how the children of our new society will become our most valuable resource, and that is why we will pay a parent or guardian to raise the children. Now, the focus of the whole thing is right there in that sentence. That is how the children in our new society will become our most valuable country resource, and that is why we will pay parents or guardians to raise our child or children. That's the whole focus. So let's go on into the child raising thing. We have a problem. We have the problem of welfare mothers or welfare parents now. Could be fathers. And we need to separate the one group from the other. What we are saying is that there are two different groups, and they seem to have been combined into one negative group in people's mind. The first type is the do nothing, know nothing, care about nothing mother who has children because she can. And in brackets we're saying the government will pay her to do so, and the government will also kick out the husband or the other partner. The government will not pay, blah, blah, blah. Follow these rules. Who's making the rules? These welfare government employees that make tremendous amount of money, and it's put on the welfare system as a cost. We don't need them. We don't need anything. We just simply need to pay the mother or the father or the person raising the child a minimum wage. Minimum. You're not going to buy a new car. You're not going to have the very best house. You're going to survive. You're going to live in an apartment. You're going to, assuming that you aren't adding money to the government pay, but were you to, as they do, and they kind of are on the side of having a husband in the house because it is a better system until we get to the point where we can't get to that point. It's a better system right now. What's the better system? Getting married, having a husband or a wife, and he or she is being paid to raise a child, and he or she that is married to him is making money, and all of a sudden they're doing even better. And oh, that's terrible. They're not doing it. Wait a minute. The guy or woman, the one who's adding to the income is working. Well, they might be working for the federal government instead of, they're still welfare. We can afford it. We can afford it. That might be the child that invents power. Free. You understand? Okay. We go back to it. And the first type is the do nothing, know nothing, care about nothing mother who has children because she can, and the government will pay her to do so. She's a drain on the society in every manner, and where the negative perception of welfare mothers come. The second type is the parent who is hit hard times, and so often, and this is in brackets again, and so often because the government and hiring policies is the reason why she or he hit hard times. But it's blamed on the parent anyway, and cannot get to work get by working 40 hours a week and taking care of the child too. Sometimes it's only 30 hours a week, and even sometimes 20 hours a week at varying hour segments. What does that mean? You work 6 hours, and you go home, and you come back and work 2, and you have to drive, and you have to, you understand? The corporations don't give a good goddamn. They don't care. They don't care about the problems that the employer has. All of a sudden, we have a government that cares about the worker. You're the vast majority. All of a sudden, you vote. All of a sudden, your vote counts. Your vote is counted. All of a sudden, people are being elected that the top people didn't want. All of a sudden, you've got people that care about you, and they're saying, you can't have a mother who's got a child work 20 hours a week and get by. What the hell's the matter with you? And they're elected. You see, boy, would that be a wonderful day. The government and the employers do not care what hours that you have to do, and they don't care if they do not pay enough to raise a child. They don't care. They're not in the business of caring. The employer, the poor employer, you think, oh, you're pro-worker, you're pro-work. Listen to me. You think that they're pro-employee, sit around, do nothing employee. Let me tell you something. Let me take a good look at the spider web of this thing. The government and the employers do not care what kind of hours you run, and they do not pay enough to raise, blah, 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 blah. They're not in the business of taking care of you. It's the government. It's your government who's in the business of making the rules that the employer has to follow. If the employer wants to have a business, let's say they're making cars. They want to make cars. They do not want to worry about the employee, whether they have health care or if they are retired. They don't care. I mean, some of them do, and it's unbelievable that some of them do. But anyway, the employer he's not. It's not his job to make sure that you have, by law, you end up with the employer having to pay a living wage. And that has nothing to do with the employer looking at the employee and saying, "Oh, poor you." No, it's a law. They have to do it, so they have to do that. But they don't have to do your Social Security, and they don't have to do your income tax, and they don't have to do the 1,000 things that the employer has to do for free for the federal government. And so what am I saying? What am I saying? I'm saying that the system that we're trying to develop is great for the employer. The employer has a business. The employer has a business to run. Never do they do anything that relates to government making them do something for free. Never do they, have to worry about the top people, the people who have money, who invest in the country, taking over and running it. You understand what we're saying? Is the employer doing better? They don't have to worry about firing an employee. They can. They can do, they can run the business. Boy, what a difference. And we'll go into that. What does the employer get? Well, we're going to go into that down the road here a little bit. So, at this point in time, the government is saying, well, the corporations have to take care of these things. Well, what do they have to take care of? The employer does not, basically, they're saying they don't care what kind of hours, that they don't pay enough to raise a child, and understanding those hours, you have to get it in your head. I guess the very wealthy don't even see this, but understand that those kind of hours that you give a person who's working, they're require a babysitter to take care of the child while the person, be it mother or father, is working. They hire a babysitter, and that babysitter has to be flexible enough to fit his hour or her hours, and it's far harder to find that kind of a babysitter, and it costs much more. So we have two kinds of child raisers: the kind that will do nothing but add to the cost of living for the rest of us, and the kind who will work to do the best for the child and for us. Why is the second group hardest hit by the economy in our, now system? Because there's pain and agony and emotional things that feed it. We talked about it and talked about it and talked about it, but everywhere we look on this spider web, we find that there's what are we talking about? We're talking about the mother who wants to do best for her child, has to work because they're both going to starve if they don't work. And she's working these oddball hours and paying a babysitter and finding out that she's not making any money. And you say, well, no, don't say, well, change it. Change it. Give that woman, that man, an income. They're raising a child, and that's the most important thing in our economy now. So I've already gone over it, but it's time to look at these workers and redefine what is expected of them. You need to honestly look at people that are raising children and redefine what it is expected of them. First, you will remember that a woman who wants a child has to have the contract signed by the father, or she cannot have the child. That's in Book 4. There's more to it, but anyway, that's what they're after. The second step is the mother or father must be taking or having passed classes on child raising in order to get paid for that work. And we already talked about that. The classes will not be used to stop the parent from having a child because they cannot pass the class, but rather to give him or her all the available information and help needed to raise a child to become the very best that the child can become, whatever field the child decides to enter. What a difference. What a change. In the now system, you have a mother or father who wants a child, and they know they will be getting almost nothing to raise that child, so one or both of them have to have a good job. They both keep working, and both of them, if that happens, if they both keep working, then they have to find a babysitter who's passed the classes in raising a child. The babysitter will cost as much as one of them is making, and maybe more. Do you understand what we're saying? People don't, the people that are making decisions have no clue that it would cost as much to work. It costs, okay, you're working at Walmart. You're getting these crummy Walmart hours, and you have to pay for a babysitter. You're not making any money. The babysitter's making money, but you're not making any money. You might get a pittance, but you have to pay for the car insurance. You have to pay for the babysitter. You have to pay for the clothes that you have to wear to work for Myers. You have to work for Myers. You have to get there and come back, and all these things. So we're talking about. It doesn't take a genius to figure out that one of those parents could stay home and raise a child and qualify for the base workers employment package, and why would and the question that you get all the time is, why would we give the parent that package? And we've just told you over and over again, we tell you it's critical that that child might invent something, and it's critical, just base level. They say, I hear it all the time. I'm from a small town, and I hear these people that are what they consider wealthy, and they don't have a clue. They're not making squat, but they're wealthier than the rest of us in the county, so we hear this all the time. That damn welfare mother doesn't pay the rent, can't pay the rent, but she's got this big, 40-inch television. Well, let me tell you what it is that. How many times do I have to say this? The woman is on welfare. The woman is home. The woman has to pay the rent. The rent in the city, the town, is not unreasonable, pretty cheap compared to a big city, but too much. And the woman comes home, takes a folding chair because that's all she can afford, and sits in the living room and looks at the wall. And she says, "What the hell is this? This is life? This is all I get? Oh, no, I'm going to get a chair and a television set." And she does, and she can't pay the rent next month. See, that is not the picture that the wealthy see. And we always say over and over, and we're talking about wealthy there, that they don't have squat, but they're wealthier than most of us in the town. That's what they see, and that's the advertisement, and the overchargers are always pointing that out. When you understand that that's what you're condemning them to, if they're going to pay your rent, and you can understand that's not your fault, then that's not the mother's fault. That's the decision that we've made, our political people have made, for the benefit of the overchargers, for the benefit of the people that can pay $100 million for a picture in the dining room because they can. You understand what we're saying? That you take a look at this, a woman sitting in the living room looking at a blank wall on a folding chair because that's all she can afford. And then you see the person eating whatever they want, just delicious meals, and they have a $100 million picture on the wall. That's what we're comparing these things to. And when you get rid of all the advertisement and get rid of all the preconceived ideas, and you see what's really going on, there's no question. There's no that person who bought that $100 million picture is wrong, is sick. It needs to be. That needs to be changed. They're stealing. They're thieving. They're thieves. They're theft. You see, it's not illegal now. It's not wrong now. It's not. There's nothing wrong with them now. You say there's nothing, but you see, they're stealing, and you need to change it. You need a gunslinger rule the city, and there was no law against it, so there was nothing wrong with what they were doing. And they said, there's nothing wrong with what we're doing. We own the town. We go to the bar and get whatever we want. We, the gunslinger had to put his or her, probably his gun in the sheriff's office to come into the town. Well, what happened? Well, the people stopped listening to the gunslinger telling them what to do and said, you put your gun in there or you don't come into the town. And there's absolutely nothing any gunslinger or group of gunslingers could do about it, because the majority of the people who were armed were people. Okay, so now they're saying we need to change this deal, how you deal with people that are raising children, and it needs to change, and we need the law to change it. And there's nothing that you thieves, uh, and they're not thieves until the law is changed. But once the law is changed, they're paying $400,000 a year. They're being paid $400,000 a year, and that's all. All of a sudden, we got the money to do it. You understand what we're saying? So now here's where the discussion on economics comes in. We need to see that raising a child with the aim of developing them to their highest potential in whatever task they choose is in the national interest. As we discussed in the economic part of Book 4, they have a potential of becoming the greatest renewable national resource we have, and they are most likely to give us the highest return on our investment, even in the relation to the gross national product. What did they say? They said, uh, number one, they said it was an investment. Paying a person to raise a child is an investment. It's not a drudge. It's not a drag down on the rich. It's an investment. And all of a sudden there are new jobs, and all of a sudden the country is living on renewable energy instead of using up all the oil on Earth. You see what we're saying? Spider web. Things are changing. Things are changing.